Is America slowly becoming the United States of fence? That's a joke critics are honestly making after the report that Trump administration wants to fence off more of Pennsylvania Avenue outside of the White House. Supporters call it a necessary security measure, but on the other hand, the critics say it another sign of public America is slowly disappearing behind the barriers. So what is really going on with this? Donald Trump is facing intense criticisms after reports that his administration wants to fence off more of Pennsylvania Avenue outside of the White House. But critics, they are saying this debate is much bigger than another fence. They argue that America is slowly becoming the country of barriers, checkpoints, restricted zones, and closed off public places. And every year they say there seems to be another area or probably ordinary people can no longer freely access. Now, supporters completely disagree. They argue this has nothing to do with the restriction freedom. They say it is simply about protecting the president in an era where security threats have become far more serious than they were decades ago. But critics aren't convinced with this. They argue America cannot solve every security concern by building another fence. So according to them, if every important landmark ends up surrounded by the barriers, ordinary Americans slowly lose access to places that were built for the public in the first place. So Pennsylvania Avenue isn't just another road. It sits directly outside of the most famous building in the world. Millions of tourists travel there every single year to see the White House, take photographs, and experience what has long been one of America's most iconic public spaces. Now, critics, they're arguing that adding more fencing sends the wrong message. Instead of showing openness, they say it creates more distance. Instead of showing confidence, they believe it shows more fear. Instead of bringing governments closer to the people, they argue it places another physical barrier between the Washington and ordinary Americans where they really have to connect with them. Now, some political commentators say this is a part of a much larger trend. They argue that over the last 2 decades, security measures have expanded across the Washington totally. Now, roads have closed, public access has more become limited, temporary barriers have become permanent structures of this kind of stuff. Now, they argue another piece of building space could disappear totally. Now, the proposal has already sparked heated debate across social media instantly. Many Americans believe stronger protections around the White House is simply common sense. They point to the growing number of threats against public officials and argue that no responsible administration can ignore modern security risks. But others, they see it very differently. They argue that protecting the president is important, but that America has to preserve the openness and also symbolize its democracy. For them, this debate isn't really about one fence. It's all about the direction the country is heading towards. So critics, they ask the broader question. If today is just another fence outside the White House, what will be fenced off probably for tomorrow? Supporters, they reject that argument. They insist the proposal is based entirely on security assessments, not on limiting public freedom, and they say critics are turning into practical safety measure into political controversy. Now, so the country remains so divided on this. One side sees a necessary investment in national security, but on the other hand, they are seeing another step towards what they describe as United States of fence. So whether this proposal ultimately moves forward or changes after public debate remains to be seen totally. But one thing is already very clear. What started as a proposal to add more fencing outside of the White House has quickly become a national debate over security, public access, freedom, and what Americans want their democracy to look like in the future. So let me know in the comments below, what do you think? What's really happening? Should this really happen or not? I want to know in the comments below. Thank you. See you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe for the most important updates, what's happening in America and all around the world. Thank you. See you in the next video.